Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm William.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything tabletop RPGs.
And today we're talking about the crashing and burning of everyone's favorite game of Dungeons & Dragons. And today we're joined by two guests, Daniel Gonzalez from Diversity Saves and Matthew from Abyssal Brew. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome, adventurers, to the Dungeoncast.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Hey, thanks for
having us. It has been a week.
Absolutely.
It's been a week.
It's been two.
It's been a week. I'm sure that there are at least some listeners out there that don't know what we're talking about. I'm impressed that they don't know what we're talking about because I feel like this has been everywhere.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, there is a huge debacle, crisis. I would say crisis. I feel like this is a crisis.
It's a debacle and a crisis.
Yeah. With the game of Dungeons & Dragons, most importantly with the owning companies of Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, who are trying to change the open gaming license.
So that should be our first topic is what is an OGL? What is an open gaming license, I think? We should get everybody up to speed and on the same page, right?
I feel like Daniel or Matt, I think you guys probably do a better job explaining what the OGL is than me, but I'll do it if you guys want.
Yeah, I mean, I know Matthew and I both publish under the OGL and have for a while now. Matthew with the Abyssal Brews, me both on the Star Seeker's Guide to Drakenstar. We initially had intentions of publishing it under the OGL.
Yeah.
We're still kind of working that out. But as well as my own adventure writing. The OGL, in layman's terms, is essentially permission from Wizards of the Coast to publish third-party material using their rules as well as some of the actual text from the core books in the form of what's called the SRD, the System Reference Document. So it includes classes, some races and monsters, and some magic items as well. And so all of that is kind of wrapped up in the OGL of saying, like, here, you're allowed to use this to publish anything you want as long as it's not infringing on our actual IP of, like, you know, Drist and Forgotten Realms and stuff like that.
Right, and it's the document that's made like all the third-party stuff that you've seen for D&D possible. Mm-hmm. It's what's made Pathfinder possible. It's made a lot of video games possible, and it has been. I think they established it in 2001. Is that right?
2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was designed with the intention of being perpetual and lasting forever, if I'm not mistaken. And
the language in it, it suggests that it, would continue in perpetuity. But now there's a lot of debate about the revocability of it and so on, and that's where we're getting.
That's kind of where we're at. So I think it was January 4th where it was leaked. This new OGL 1.1, and this new OGL. Is disastrous, to say the least. It's disastrous for pretty much any type of content creator in the D&D space. I have a bullet point list here of some of the stuff it did. So the number one, it was their move to try and update / deauthorize their open gaming license, which was originally intended for that to not even be possible. The thing that hit me the most, the thing that like made me balk and left me shocked, was the fact that they had language in it that iterated that they could use, sell, and do basically whatever they want with any of the content made under the OGL. They could essentially just steal your work. I couldn't believe it when I read it.
License back language is common in some things like software, or certain online marketplaces where if you're creating this, it's then uploaded to their servers, and then to protect themselves in the future they say things like that. But it's something that for 22 years now, creators in the scene have never even considered. The things that we write, the things that we make and produce, those are our property. Exactly. They're our intellectual property. We own it. We are the stewards and arbiters of it. So to many creators like us, handing that information or handing that ownership and stewardship over to a company like Wizards of the Coast is untenable to start with. That was a rough one.
Yeah, that one had me
it's infuriating.
in breakdown mode.
Yeah.
Like, especially like, Brian, myself, and Daniel here, we're working on a book for a campaign that we just finished that, you know, it has an audience and whatnot. And it's something we've been working on for years. And the idea of like, oh, when we're done with it, it's not entirely ours anymore. Like that broke my heart, like to even consider.
Right.
The line in that particular section that got me the most was sub-licensable, which is something that
Right.
like Matthew said, it's common in software, but I've never seen it on like a creative publication like this before. And the idea of somebody taking something that we create and then possibly handing it to another third-party agency was just unconscionable to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's foul. It's absolutely foul. I'm very mad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to use civil language here.
I'm not. If anybody has seen anything I've posted or
You can
talked about
curse.
it, like it's
Yeah, we
just
don't care.
like this hits a deep part of me that like I'm very angry at the world about in general, not just here. I deal with this in lots of places, and now it's happening here in a hobby space that I thought was going to be a safe place to do
space.
creative work. And now you're infringing on my creativity, and that makes me very, very upset.
To add to this, Wizards of the Coast wanted everyone who signed this to register with them. We would have to report on all the content we were making, how much we were making off the content, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing, this is probably the second worst thing, or maybe even the worst thing on this, was the fact that they reserved the right to change and update the new OGL whenever and however they saw fit, only needing to give a 30-day notice. This basically, like, you forfeit everything. If they can do that, you forfeit everything by signing this OGL.
The really important part of that is the content windows and production windows that we deal with in the tabletop RPG space. So when you're talking about updates to maybe something like a software license, saying, okay, we can change that in 30 days. Well, typically you don't have the same kind of prod times that you do in the tabletop space. We're talking about Kickstarters that take 2 years to fulfill and get into people's hands. The writing for a lot of projects starts 1.5 to 2 years before you even see a Kickstarter page go live. So if I'm to start writing a product today, that means that there would be the potential, if they say, 30 days, there would be the potential for them to change it 24 times by the time that I got to a Kickstarter page. That's impossible for a creator that has that. And, furthermore, if one of those changes invalidates the product that I've already sold on a Kickstarter but haven't fulfilled yet, but maybe the books have been printed, do I have to pulp those? What do I do?
Right. Yeah.
Well, very close to the situation that we found ourselves in when this first leaked for
Exactly.
Stars. We're mid writing this book. Like we've finished a good chunk of mechanical design and lore writing, which beta's coming soon. But it was one of those things where we had to sit and go like, shit, do we have to completely course correct on this? Do we have to trash everything we've done and start over? Like, how do we, how do we fix this?
How do we navigate forward?
Especially because we already have people's money. Like it's not like we can just be like, oh, sorry, we're gonna like cancel and start again.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That is not the plan moving forward here.
No, it's not. No, the book's happening, and we've figured out some contingencies.
Yeah, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it work. And we're gonna be open with our community about what it means for that product and everything. It's it's not something we're trying to skirt by or anything like that.
There was another thing in the OGL 1.1 was the statement of all businesses earning $750K or more had to pay 25% royalty to WotC. Like, not only is that egregious for its own reasons, but when you take into account the fact that they could change the terms of the OGL at any point they want after you sign this, like, who's to say that those numbers, the 750K doesn't lower to 100K, and the 25% doesn't up to 35, 45, 50%. They can do whatever you want after you sign this thing.
These are rookie numbers.
Yeah.
An even grosser point of it was that, I mean, not to, start with a pun, but this was off of gross revenue.
Yeah. And the margins for this type of content are slim.
It is anywhere from 8 to 15%, depending on the type of product that you're creating.
Man.
So when you're talking about, it's 750K or more, but if you're taking 25% off of 750K or more, that eliminates your margin on a lot of those products.
Yeah.
Some could just make it, but then it also incentivizes people to just shut down their Kickstarter once you get to 749,000. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I saw people like formulating how to like, oh well, maybe if I only set up a certain amount of backers or start closing tiers at certain levels, that way they never broke that 750. Because I saw someone did the math on Twitter of like at what point over 750 you're just no longer making money, and it was like I think 1.1 million, which once you break 750, like
that's not that much further along.
The train's rolling. Like,
yeah,
right.
It's not going to take much to get to that point.
I will tell you that's a weirdly prescient thing to say, because I was trying to think of Kickstarters that fell in that range between 750 and 1.1, and I can't really think of many.
Yeah.
Most of them, once they hit that threshold, they'll end up over 1.5, somewhere in the 2, depending on if it's Heliana's or not, right? But
another thing is virtual tabletops. They essentially are trying to just shut that down. So Roll20, Foundry, Shard, Fantasy Grounds, they would no longer be able to operate as they currently do under the new OGL. Basically,
hope you liked them while you had them.
I know, right? Basically, like it's essentially Wizards just wants to completely dominate and monopolize that space.
Right, the microtransaction thing. This is like the core of that. I feel like.
Yeah, that's they have their eyes on that for sure. Mm-hmm. I was also hearing and reading that there was language claiming that even live play content was going to have limitations, such as not being able to have any D&D content behind paywalls such as Patreon. Basically, if you made D&D video content, especially live play content, it would have to be public, freely available to the public. Otherwise, you were in violation of the new OGL. Now, am I incorrect in that statement? Because that's what I was reading in a lot of places.
I don't think you're incorrect. I think that it was so ambiguous, it was hard to tell. Mm-hmm. The language was so poorly written because they were very much trying to shove certain things off of the OGL and put them firmly in the fan content policy, and anything that would be in fan content policy has to be freely available to everyone. So that's where the poor wordsmithing of their legal document here really kind of put a lot of actual play types in a weird corner there with questions like that. Am I allowed to have a character intro locked behind a Patreon because that's what we do to fund this entire endeavor? Some people but.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it affects what we do on the show. We have big plans for like actual play, live play stuff.
Yeah, we're
coming up
playing them. Yeah,
that's meant to be behind the paywall for at least a while we work on it.
And we also have multiple live plays that are behind that paywall. On
so many actual plays do that. They have a week early access for patrons or something like that.
Right.
That's always been fine, but the language was so ambiguous it was hard to tell.
So that was in the original leak for the 1.1 OGL, and after that kind of started the open D&D movement, and then the next thing that happened was there was an actual leak from a confirmed, I think it was a D&D Beyond employee that leaked the email, talking
somebody
about
working with them.
Yeah, it was like a contractor working with D&D Beyond who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And their email kind of highlighted the plan, Hasbro's plan to kind of remain silent until the outrage died out, and that the only metric that they can or will respond to was D&D Beyond subscriptions, which began the D&D Begone movement on Twitter, which we partook in as well.
I saw less of that than the open D&D stuff, but that was just from a personal standpoint. I did see D&D Begone. That was kind of funny.
That a lot of that kicked off actually. Like we saw that message. D&D Shorts was the first one to cover that, and then shortly after that, Ginny D, the person who was the face of D&D's launch.
That was a big deal, especially for me. I was like, oh shit, okay, we don't have an excuse anymore.
People
so if Ginny happens to hear this, thank you.
Right,
that was pivotal.
I think everybody kind of looked at that and went, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely was like that was the avalanche point. It was like, okay, this isn't stopping.
Yeah, and I think that once the community really took hold of that sort of thing, it was out of anybody's hands, right? Once people can see high profile influencers of a stature like Ginny, then I think a lot of people understand the severity of the situation, which is
Exactly.
interesting, as she's this like she's a creator of YouTube and covers a lot of topics related to D&D, but like her coming out in support of third party content really, I think, turned the community into understanding how bad this would be.
I think so too.
For sure.
Yeah. And then we started getting announcements of different content creators trying to come up with their own OGLs. And there was a few cool announcements. I know there's the Black Flag project, which is that still going on with Kobold Press, or have they moved to the Paizo thing?
Yeah, so the Paizo thing is just a license. The Black Flag project is a new system being worked on by Kobold Press.
Okay. And I'm to understand that it may or may not be a 5e clone, question mark? Is that something I'm even allowed to say?
I don't know for sure, but from everything that I've read, at least it sounds like they're going to try to make it close to 5e. I don't know if it's going to be a clone, but it's going to at least be easy to transition.
Yeah. But there's legal walls you'll run into there, but
yeah. But the biggest news was Paizo's announcement of an OGL of their own in cooperation with a number of large third-party content creation companies. The new ORC or ORC will be free to use for anyone and everyone. And even though Paizo says that they're going to dish out the cash to develop the new gaming license, they will hand off ownership to a nonprofit legal organization with the intent of it remaining free forever. Now, this was, for me, one of the biggest, I guess you could call it wins.
Yeah,
for
this
the
is a
community.
hurrah
This
for
is-
like the
this is
community. I
huge.
saw people like celebrating this.
Yeah, it's great to see because there had been a vacuum that I think some people were waiting on from Paizo. They're the ones that when this first kicked off, everybody kind of looked at them and said, what are you doing? And I think they were really waiting for Wizards to show their hand. But after the mass unsub campaign that was this past Thursday, it seemed like they had decided they had waited plenty long enough.
Yeah.
God, Thursday was a wild day.
It was.
Oh,
It was
man.
a stressful day.
One of the things they said in their statement that I think really resonated with a lot of independent and third-party creators is not only are they making the open role-playing game creative license, the ORC, but they also stated that they're willing to stand against Hasbro legally. Like if it comes to litigation, they're putting their foot down and saying that you can't revoke the OGL 1.0A and you can't come for us for this. The fact that they're working with a legal team to draft this license, who's going to then take stewardship of it, I think it's just a huge slap in the face to Wizards that they fucking earned. So it was
great. It was comforting to
to
see somebody standing up to Wizards as well and Hasbro. It was that.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking behind the scenes a lot about like, dude, we can't legal up against Hasbro.
Yeah.
No one can
None of
legal
us
up against
can.
Hasbro. Somebody fucking was like, no, we can though, and we're gonna. I'm like, thank you, God, thank you so much. Like, fuck, that was nice to see.
It for weeks. I'm not going to be the one to fuck around and find out. I can't afford that lawsuit.
Right now, Wizards is the one fucking around and finding out. Get wrecked, fools! Like, this thing that happened on Thursday. Are we talking about that in the future here, or can we talk about it now?
Talk about it now, man. Go for it.
The unsub campaign, brilliant. I'm really proud of the
Powerful.
community for going out and doing that. Thank you guys. We campaigned for that. You know, it was some debate. I was hesitant. It's like maybe we should wait for the language to come out and be official. You know, but then after seeing a few extra things that, like, you know, that Wizards of the Coast employee posted on Reddit, I'm pretty sure was where it was. I was like, oh no, fuck no. And then Ginny doing her thing, like, okay, like there's no more, like all my reservations
no reason to
lifted.
wait anymore.
It's like, okay, we're unsubbing now. We're gonna be public about it. Like this is something we need to do. And anybody that went and followed in those footsteps, like, really appreciate it. So Wizards site crashed because of it, because of the outpouring.
Yeah, there was 500 server errors pretty much all day off and on. I mean, people were still able to unsub, but they were running into errors and having to like redo it over and over again, which
Same thing with people.
that was
trying to download
hilarious.
character
It was
sheets,
great,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah,
was
we-
also a tactical ploy by
Oh, yeah.
Wizards and Hasbro, because when the site was back up, the unsub button became hidden in
It
ways.
moved, right? Yeah.
Yes. So that's a ploy to redirect the call to action from content creators. Well, if they go there and they can't figure out how to unsub, they'll forget. And then they won't do it.
bother to do
And
it.
that was
I think
the
they
fucking thing. I was so
They fucked with the
furious.
wrong
I
community,
think
dude.
they
They fucked with the
underestimated
wrong community.
just how fucking wily gamers are. Like,
I'll fucking call to action as many times as it takes. Like if that's your tactic, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight you on that
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah,
because
we're
that's
not stopping.
bullshit. I hate.
Mhm.
Ooh, okay.
They took on a
Brian's big mad.
About that.
they decided to
specifically,
take
yes.
on a community of rules lawyers, right?
Yeah. And the meme game, I've never seen the D&D meme game so strong.
Oh,
It's
it
been good.
was
It's been
good.
it was good. It was good. I think one of my favorites after, we'll talk about it later, but one of my favorites was the Black Knight from Monty Python,
Oh,
his
yeah.
arms and legs cut off, and he's like, "All right, we'll call it a draw."
yeah. That's hilarious.
Are we talking about the language in their
Their update.
their update
We're
statement?
we're about
We're
to.
almost
That's the
there.
next thing
Sorry, I
have
jumped
here.
ahead.
No, you're good. You're
it's
good.
all good. So, there was a couple things that happened between what the D&D Beyond update and what we were just talking about, but I'm just going to jump forward to yesterday. D&D Beyond finally responds with an update on the OGL. And they attempt to backtrack a few of the items in 1.1, but more so try to claim the 1.1 OGL was designed for moral reasons, i.e. like to fight NFTs and racism bigotry
Sorry.
and abusing their IP, et cetera.
Can we
It was just blatant lies.
Daniel,
across the
do you
board.
want to take this?
Real quick, one publishing note. We are recording this Saturday the 14th. The
Yes.
situation is still developing.
Yep.
It is the weekend though, so hopefully things stay calm. We are going to publish this episode. Pacific Coast, Pacific Standard Time, midnight on Monday.
Yeah.
is
And
when this
Monday's
will
a
air.
holiday, so I don't think anything's going to change between now and then.
Cool.
I don't think
So one additional note that they tried to add in there, they tried to call 1.1 a draft. Even
Oh
though they
my
had
God.
people
Lie.
signing contracts.
off.
Yeah, whatever. You have
They had people
effective
sign-
dates written
you don't
in there.
sign
Yeah.
contracts on a fucking draft.
Draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yeah,
tried
and-
to claim that they were going to wait for the community's opinion. Bull fucking shit.
Bullshit.
You
Yeah.
fucking
If you
lied to
wanted-
our
if
faces
it was
about
a draft if you wanted a draft and you wanted to get opinions from the community on it, you post it publicly. You don't go privately behind the scenes offering sweetheart deals with contracts that say consult your legal
And
counsel
NDAs.
before you
Yeah.
Absolutely the fuck not. Like
Yeah.
this was just like
Another thing we didn't cover about the 1.1 was the horrifying tone of the whole document.
Oh, it was
Like, this was-
condescending.
It was supposed to be a legal document, and it was condescending and juvenile even.
Yeah.
Here's
Claiming-
the big
the
problem
line
with
in there, but like our lawyers are gamers too. I was like, get out of here.
The line in there about them even saying like having your brother do your chores for you
Oh
to
my
DM
God. Yeah.
was a violation of the OGL. It's just like, oh my God.
You can
Anyway,
come to my like nephew's house and knock on his door.
right.
Yeah, I mean, and the real issue I had with that, outside of just, the condescending nature of it, I mean, obviously we're all adults, we know better on a lot of these things, but when you are using layman language in what is supposed to be a legal document, that can be construed as legal counsel, and nobody can offer legal counsel to me except my legal counsel.
Mhm.
Right.
So where's the line there? I don't think that that's appropriate, and I don't think that it is even. I don't know. It's such a weird line, right?
It was highly inappropriate. It was extremely unprofessional.
like-
It was shocking. It was almost enough for me to be like, this can't be real. Like, this can't be the actual thing that they sent.
yeah, you're writing with
Right.
emotion in this.
Yeah,
Like
this is
suck
a legal
my
thing.
dick. Like, you fucking serious?
And people
I'm
thought I
sorry,
was the
like,
one who
it's
was going
not
to
I don't
pop
think
off.
I've ever seen Brian this mad.
It's not the vibe I try to bring to the show, but like I feel very strongly in this way about
Yeah,
stuff
you
like
should.
this. Like you really taking us for granted over here,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
we brought like people in this community brought it to this point, and this is how you're treating us.
Yeah.
Like,
so in both the 1.1 and the 2.0 FAQ that they put out, they put all of this shit onto NFTs and racism and bigotry and all this shit.
Oh my
which
God.
is bullshit for a number of reasons. One, Hasbro makes NFTs and
They love
sells them.
NFTs.
Yeah, they just put out a Power
Google
Ranger one.
Power Rangers NFT.
Yeah.
And yeah,
$200 per.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
No, they are a pro NFT corporation.
And then there's that whole bullshit with the Hadozi that they just released after not
or the
having a
Vistani
cultural
or
consensus.
the Vistani,
or races in general. Oh my
well,
God.
also
there's so
my
much bullshit.
understanding too is that with the current OGL, with OGL 1.0, they have the ability to revoke licenses of people who are doing content that is racist and full of bigotry.
Yeah,
they can do that
absolutely can.
already. They don't.
It's a
need to
DMCA. That's all they need to do.
Exactly.
It's a DMCA.
They don't
They can
need to
specifically
update
say
the
you
OGL
can't
to
use
do
this
that.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's another lie.
So it was just an excuse.
Yeah,
and same thing with abusing the IP. Like literally, the entire point of the OGL is to say you can't use our IP. Like you can use everything else, but you can't use our IP.
Yeah.
So them saying that the 1.1 is to protect that by some like further means is just more bullshit.
It's hilarious too because it's so unnecessary. You can use everything that isn't our IP. No shit.
Yeah. So
We can already use everything that isn't your IP because if it isn't your IP, it's public. You can't copyright mechanics. You can sometimes talk about like expressions of mechanics, but anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely.
That was a tangent.
so the D&D Beyond update from yesterday, it made it clear that they are still 100% not budging on the idea of revoking the original OGL and coming up with a new one, which is already just bad news. It's just that is not something I'm willing to accept. Because there's nothing wrong with the original OGL. Any changes you make to it are only going to be negative.
Yep.
I don't think they didn't walk back royalties, did they? In this
Yeah,
update,
they
they did. Okay, so they
said
walked
they
back royalties.
removed the royalty structure, but that they're still going to have like specialized deals for people who become very successful.
Man, they want that fucking dollar, and they're gonna find a way to get it.
Which it's fucking pennies. Like it's drops in the bucket compared to what they're making.
Right.
Last year,
It's
Wizards
a first
alone made $1 billion. All of the largest Kickstarters combined made, what was it, 20 million?
That's
something like
that's
that.
a drop
Yeah.
in the bucket. Yeah.
It's less than it's like what, 1% maybe?
I think
Maybe.
Heliana's was
That's
probably
hard.
the most successful Kickstarter of last year, and that was
Yeah,
like
it was like
2.2, right?
Yeah, it broke 2 million. You're right.
Wow.
But even so, it's just such a drop in the bucket comparative to the actual money.
Yeah.
The idea of going after, companies for this, and we're talking about companies that are not harming your bottom line. In fact, in many cases, they're helping. Heliana's is the one that I talk about a lot because it was something that I saw more of this from than any other Kickstarter, but it kind of functioned a lot like Monster Hunter in the game, like in a game sense. You go hunt these big monsters and you get parts of them and can craft things from it. And I saw fans of Monster Hunter saying, "Oh man, this is really cool. I'm going to play D&D because of this."
Right. Right.
That's how the third party market has always worked.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
You need the damn core books to play the fucking game.
Right. That's an education point. We have to all be on the same page and learn the system.
So
Right.
the update not only didn't really make any truly substantial promises about like how they're going to not fuck the community, but the biggest thing for me is whatever OGL they come out with, the number one thing I'm going to be looking for is them mentioning that they're going to be able to change and update their new OGL at any time they please. Because if that's in there, and it will be, I guarantee you it will be, it also means that anything that you're signing up for on the OGL means nothing. They can
It'll
and will
just be a
change
slow
it.
walk.
It'll be that's exactly what it'll be. So that's the number one thing I'm going to be keeping an eye out for when they do eventually publish their new OGL. And then much like the 1.1 OGL that got leaked, this update was fucking snarky too. with their stupid line about like people are gonna say that you guys won and we lost, but the truth is you won and we won too. It's like, shut the fuck
We're all winners
up.
here.
Shut the fuck
I couldn't
up.
believe reading that. Like reading that document top to bottom was I know it's the year is fresh, but it's the worst thing that I've fucking seen in 2023 so far. Like in terms of like in this space, like oh god, it was just cringeworthy in every aspect.
I was like, I was okay. I was, dealing with it. I was coping with the bullshit until I got to one line that said, "In this way, we rolled a nat 1." And I remember sitting right here in this office. I read that and went, "Oh, fuck off." Like I said it audibly.
Yeah.
My brother's like, "What?" I'm like, well,
I mean,
that line
you
in
sure
general,
fucking did though.
Yeah.
But then like you don't win in nat 1 situations.
No, you don't.
I think my favorite interpretation of that, it was just a snarky little reply, but I liked it, which was, "Oh, so basically what you're saying is this is exactly what you were trying to do, you just failed miserably at it."
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
We rolled a nat 1.
They also didn't deny the leaks. Like
that was weird.
In a big way, they just like validated all of our concerns by being like, yeah, so anyways, about these leaked drafts, yeah, that was us.
Yeah, basically our bad. We did try to do that. Like you sure fucking did, and I noticed. Thank you.
That was weird.
Yeah, I expected a lot more denial, if I'm going to be honest.
I really did expect them to at least. I expected them to dodge. I expected them to just not mention the leaks, not talk about it. So
I didn't expect them to take the attack of opportunity, but they did.
Do we know? Do we know the who wrote that specific statement?
No, we don't.
We don't, right?
We don't.
No, somebody at a mixture of Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast.
Exactly. So it sounds like Hasbro whipped up some bullet points, sent it down to Wizards. Wizards assigned it to a writer or a team of writers, and those writers went through the bullet points and addressed them and didn't want to write the fucking document. That's what it felt like. Like they had to try and include some of this like quippy language to like reach out to the community. This is the part that bothers me the most is they're attacking the emotions of the fan base in a way that like is hollow and disheartening to see. Like using that type of language is trying to get people like, if you didn't know what was going on with the OGL and you read that document,
you'd be like, oh, okay, shrug shoulders.
Yeah, this looks like a Wizards. This looks like a D&D. Like, oh, we did a whoopsie. You guys get whoopsies.
We all do whoopsies.
We all did a whoopsie. We're gonna not do this.
No, you're right.
Yeah, we're not gonna do this whoopsie. Okay. And I was like, well, like seeing everything that's happened in the last couple weeks and then reading that, this just offends me farther. Like, and I almost don't want to hold it against whoever wrote the document because I know those directions are coming from upstairs. So.
I have heard rumors, and I mean, I don't have any substantial evidence, but I hear that there is, what's the word? Discord within Wizards of the Coast itself. And I would imagine there's probably a lot of workers there that are not pleased about what's going on. And for all obviously it leaked. Someone in there leaked it.
I mean, heads are rolling over there right now.
I think it's really important to say in no uncertain terms that we're not endorsing bullying Wizards of the Coast.
No, definitely not.
Definitely
not.
It's people are working there. They have day jobs. Like they have to fucking work to pay bills. You know
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Situation to be in,
and
they're not making these decisions either. And for all we know, they're fighting these decisions from the inside.
Yeah. Right. A lot of these people are creators like us, except that they, work in an official capacity for that. And so, they keep their heads down, they write stuff, they make things, they illustrate, they do all that. But there is this layer of, corporate management that Linda Cadega has been the journalist that has been covering a lot of this in some of the best extent. They are employed by Gizmodo, I believe. But their articles have been covering a lot of, the internal functions at Wizards of the Coast. And from very early on, their reporting has stated that, there's this divide between management and, sadly, a lot of the people that work there, where management has this weird disdain for a lot of the community in it. And
I mean, even that first email leak from that started the whole D&D Be Gone thing.
Yeah.
clear that there's just such a disconnect between executive decision and the actual passionate people who are making the game.
I mean, it's sad to say, but I mean, that's the common mentality with corporations. They don't give a fuck about the fandom or even the product. Like, in their opinion, we're just a bunch of suckers that give them their money, and they don't understand the heart behind this community or almost any fandom out there.
I would go even farther to say that this is my experience in corporate America is bullshit like this nonstop. 24/7.
Yep.
That I as a member of the workforce am a pawn and a piece of trash depending on like what day of the week it is.
Yep.
And
that's been my experience as well when it
Yeah.
comes to working in various industries throughout my life.
Right. And trying to break from that and be a part of this like great community and that's like entrenches me in being a creative person and allows me to explore like all these things that are locked out from my normal life. It is just so nasty to me to have to deal with this here. Like, great. And I'm just, this isn't directed at Wizards of the Coast employees. This is always coming from the top. This is always like my problem with people that manage.
Yeah.
It's like,
when all this started to go down, like it hit me emotionally in a way that, I don't think I've ever been hit before, because, it's one thing to see the negative events and the terrible abuse and corruption that happens in the world on a daily basis. But like, this is where I live. Like, this is my career. This is my passion. This is my hobby. And you're taking a massive fucking shit all over it. It just
for your personal gain.
Yeah, for your personal gain. It just, it broke my heart.
Yeah, there's more to life than money, and D&D as a community, I feel we embody that a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's just so wild too, because like most D&D campaigns, we're fighting against tyrants and oligarchs
greedy tyrants
control.
Yeah.
And WotC's like, oh, we can do that.
Yeah, seriously. Jesus. Way to become the BBEG of all of our campaigns, WotC and Hasbro. Let's take a break, guys. I want to take a short rest, and we'll come back, and I have some big talking points that I think we should tackle.
Let's preview what those are real quick for people. So it's stay tuned. We're going to talk about where this leaves the community, where does it leave D&D, and where does it leave us?
Yeah.
We've returned.
Indeed we have.
We're fucking back.
Indeed we are.
Yeah. That won't change.
No, that won't change. That'll never change.
We'll come back.
So Matthew and Daniel, why don't you guys tell our audience a little bit about who you guys are, what your company's do, and where you can be found.
Do it, Daniel.
Me first. God dang it. I've been on here a few times. So for those of you who don't know me or are joining in for the first time, my name is Daniel Gonzalez. I'm a freelance designer, writer, and editor in the tabletop role-playing game space. Most of the work that I've done up until now has been heavy, but that's changing for obvious reasons. And aside from that, I am also the co-founder and president of Diversity Saves. Diversity Saves is a nonprofit organization focused on tabletop role-playing games and specifically on uplifting and creating opportunities for people from the LGBTQIA+ and BIPOC communities to create in the ttrpg space. We, as an organization, have been keeping an eye on this whole OGL situation. It does not change our mission. It does not change where we're coming from. We're still committed to providing grants to people from marginalized communities to help them grow and create new products. And we are actually going to be opening our application process at the beginning of next month. So we've got a lot of very big plans for that and for future fundraising events. We successfully raised over $2,000 just in the month of December last year.
Yay.
And big thank you to actually the Dungeoncast community. We've had a couple of big donations. I don't want to name people here for the sake of their own privacy, but seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the people who did donate. I did see your messages. We will be in contact. But yeah, it was amazing, and we're just going to keep moving forward with it.
Yeah, we're big supporters of what you guys are doing over there. So thank you guys so much for like being that force in the community, and you deserve what the success you've seen, and I hope for more.
Yeah, I guess I have to follow that up, man. Mine's not as exciting and more greedy and capitalistic. No.
Hey,
Full disclosure,
we have to
Matthew
live.
is also on the board for diversity sake.
There we go.
Yeah. Look, I can do my capitalistic part because I do my charity part, on diversity saves, right?
We all live in the
but yeah.
system, so
Right. So I'm Matthew. I am one half of the creative duo behind the company Abyssal Brews. We make third-party content for Dungeons and Dragons. Who could have thought? But the things that we make are mostly focused on magic items, but we also create subclasses, creatures, add-on systems, things of that nature. Just stuff to make your game better. And more interesting, more cinematic. We create mostly on Patreon. That's where you can find all of our stuff at patreon.com/abyssalbrews.
Man, this OGL came for you, didn't it? This OGL came for
yes,
you.
It did. Came for me specifically.
Sorry.
But you can also find us on all of our social medias at Abyssal Brews and our website, abyssalbrews.com. So we're all over the place. Cool. Just look for us.
We'll put the links in the description really as well.
Pretty.
Yeah, we hear great things.
Yeah,
so.
seriously.
Oh, also diversitysaves.org. I forgot to actually name the website.
Don't worry, the links will be in the description for both these guys.
So please check out Abyssal Brews and Diversity
Saves.
Please do.
Yeah, you got these are both great things that exist in the community.
And now more than ever, third-party creators need your support.
Absolutely.
We don't consider you obstacles to our money.
Seriously.
We
exist
to enrich your experience at the table.
Indeed.
Like that's part of this.
Sorry, for those who don't know, that was some language that was included in one of the leaks. Management considers customers an obstacle to their money.
Yeah, there's a really you guys know Monkey DM. He did a really good recap video on everything that hit the major points, and he included that specific language in one of his videos on TikTok. There
have been so many third-party creators and independent creators who just come out in stride.
Yes,
in support of open D&D.
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
Yeah, that actually leads me into the first bullet point that I want us to talk about. Of, obviously this situation, it's not over; it's going to continue developing. Yeah. But as of now, where does this leave the D&D community?
As one who scrolls, I will tell you that Wizards and Hasbro, with this OGL, you have weaponized one of your greatest assets in free advertising and turned them against you.
Yeah.
The community is not on your side in the world of Scroll. So they have been making really funny, quippy stuff that just completely rejects the BS that you threw our way.
And the new community is coming for you.
Absolutely. These content creators are all affected, and you have weaponized them against you, and it's going to dilute your fan base in a way that I don't think you foresaw.
I think that one positive note, though, that we can take from this on where this leaves the community is that this has united a community that is known for never agreeing on anything.
That's true.
The D&D community, everybody plays D&D differently. Some people play a high fantasy, cinematic, crazy over-the-top game. Some people play with gritty realism and kind of in these grimdark settings and things of that nature. And everywhere in between, people mod it to play steampunk, people mod it to play modern or futuristic settings. But everybody has their own opinions, and we all read and quibble over these little rule intricacies and does this mean this and so on. But this is something that has taken a community that is known as a bunch of folks that argue over minutia and somehow took all of them and said, here, you're all friends now, and there's the BBEG.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
really
is
good.
I think it's a good place to be though for a community when we can fully understand that though there might be differences in how a lot of tables play and differences in of opinions on, the little stuff, that we as a community do care about the others in the community, that we care about uplifting other creators. The reason that Fernando and I even started AB was because we saw so many other creators doing really amazing things, and we thought we had a voice to add to that. And we were so excited to see people use our stuff at their table. That kind of joy that you get from creating something and other people loving it, it's been really impressive to see a community rally around that feeling, the communal sharing of all of this. So I think for the D&D community, angry, united, sure, but also finally, feeling like they are in a place where they have some sort of, influence over the greedy corporation at this point.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
A common
So-
solid ground to stand on.
Yeah.
That's been a weird
for
one.
the first time in like the 20 something years that I've been playing D&D, it is easier than ever to convince your friends to try that weird little indie game that you've had sitting
Yeah.
on your shelf for
Yeah.
10 years, begging people to play. So, like, if there are non D&D games out there that you want to try, like, now's probably the best time to convince some people, given
Yeah.
everything that's happened.
Yeah, especially
I-
like the one-page RPGs. Like,
there's so
like,
many good ones.
yeah, like we played Sexy Battle Wizards
Oh, that game is
together, and that was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you, Mariko.
Another thing too is I know I've heard from some of these people, and I understand the sentiment. There's people who don't want to leave D&D behind, even though they agree and they stand against WotC. And guess what? WotC and Hasbro, they don't own your table. They don't own what you do at your table. D&D doesn't, like, it belongs to them in a legal sense, but D&D is older than them, and D&D doesn't really belong to them. D&D is what happens at your table. So you go ahead, you keep playing D&D, and you can do that without supporting WotC. You don't have to buy any of their new modules. You don't have to advertise them, and you don't have to give them any of your money.
I would say a little piece of, maybe advice is every time you feel like you have run out of, some material, research a new third-party publisher, because
There's so many of us out there.
there's a ton. And I mean, maybe that's self-serving because I am one, but I fully acknowledge that. But I think that there are so many people creating so many really interesting things that are far more in-depth, diverse, and intriguing than the core materials, that you can probably find something that not only works for your table, but might even work better for your table.
It's true.
Agreed.
We've turned to third-party materials for our home games. We've used Kobold Press stuff.
We're making third-party material now.
Yeah, we homebrew a lot. Like, I know the community loves to homebrew, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a big thing. You just do it yourself, man. Once you get kind of a general understanding, whether or not you did something balanced or not is a different story. But that's it's up to you. Like, that's the beauty of this game. And one of the pit holes I've found is like, that kind of deunifies us, right? It's like all this extra stuff. Like, we're doing this, and it's hard to like come to common ground on things sometimes, and that's where the arguing over minutia can come from, aside from rules and stuff. But it's like, oh, well, we're doing something completely different. No two tables are the same.
No, they're not.
But the spirit of the game, like that,
I think that is the same.
it's the thing that keeps me here. Like, this is like, the lore is awesome. It's a lot of fun. Will and I were talking about it before this recording, but like the camaraderie of having your table and having that group to experience that together. I mean, I think is the reason why memes were hard for so long for the D&D community, because it's like, the ranger blah 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 and the wizard blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, like, it's different from
In my game,
it's
not
so
quite
different
like
from
that,
table
so I
to
don't
table. So
quite relate, yeah.
we're hitting these weird tropey stereotypy things about the game over and over and over again. And
Well, it's the Gygax quote, right? The secret that we should never let game masters know is that they don't need the rules.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's
very
what
true.
happens at your table. It's the things that happen with your friends, and it's that getting together and talking about it and figuring out what you're going to do. So I think
Friendship
that
was the treasure we wanted all along.
Goddamn right it was.
Absolutely.
well, you make fun of that, Daniel, but like we have forged real friendships out of that, right?
it's
No,
true.
I mean,
It's a solid
I
truth.
tease, but also like absolutely, I wouldn't have the friends I have today if it wasn't for D&D and if it wasn't for the tabletop community as a whole.
Yeah,
Both in terms of like the people I've met in my day-to-day life, as well as the people that I've worked with to come to call friends, such as the three people on this call with me, like, William, Brian, Matthew, all three of us, all three of you, I have long since considered friends. And if it wasn't for D&D, I never would have met any. So obviously there's value there. There's true intrinsic value there.
It's true. I wouldn't be doing this podcast without getting to know Will as a friend.
Yeah.
And him having this passion.
I'd be like, hey, you want to play some D&D? Me basically asking him every day, and he said yes. He said
like
yes.
we're gonna combine our passions together in a non-sexual way. And
we don't judge.
Well, we would. I mean, like we could have done that, but we just didn't.
It was a choice we didn't make.
Yeah,
but we could have.
That's totally okay if people do. Like, I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is
some people combine that as well in their D&D. I'm just saying.
It's true, and it can be done. It can be done very tastefully.
It can be.
So, but the way this podcast came together was Will's got the D&D, and I had like a audio software and some training
and the funnies. He also had the funnies.
I got some funnies, I guess. Some people would say I have.
You
some
brought
funnies.
the giggles.
Yeah. I do bring giggles. I try to anyway. But like the idea is that like, dude, we started playing D&D and it was so much fun.
Yeah,
like,
that's
this would be
happened.
a great centerpiece for my creative work. Mm-hmm. Like excellent.
I feel like that's how all of us got in.
Yeah.
We saw it as a platform, and I think that the community in general now is maybe reconsidering how they look at the current people who are creating parts of the platform, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, the vibe that I've seen from a lot of the people that I know is they feel that there's been a breach of trust.
Yeah,
100%.
And
yeah,
we always had those moments. Like the Wizards has done stupid shit over the years. They released the Hadozi in Spelljammer, and everyone goes, "Are you serious? Like, what the fuck are you doing?" And they eventually, say, "Oh, okay, our bad. We were dumb. Okay, and they fix it, and everyone goes, "Can you just stop being racist?" And they're like, we'll see.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But, everybody was kind of like, all right, well, that happened. Let's get back to playing D&D. But this was one of those times that it has made the D&D community not just question the ability of Wizards to create, decent content, but it's made them question them as stewards of the entirety of the brand and game that's around it.
Without a doubt.
And so that's a hard place for a community to be, right? It's scary for a lot of people that have put a lot of time and effort and sweat into these games and companies, but that's where we are.
I feel for everybody out there that went through this past couple weeks. Like, it was tumultuous emotionally for lots of. I had a lot of people reaching out to me on Instagram about like, dude, what's gonna happen? What are you guys doing? Like, this has been really shitty. I'm like, yeah, dude, it sure has. I'm really sorry that you're going through this. Like, we're in this together. Like, I didn't respond to every single person, but like we're in this together. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, I think my comment on where does this leave the community is that, well, we're hurt. There's been a breach of trust, but now I think a lot of us are going to be willing to try new things in the tabletop RPG space. This is really going to open up the rest of the space in terms of gaming to us. Like Daniel was saying, we're going to try that weird niche thing, gathering dust on the bookshelf. This is the time. Yeah,
this might very well be the dawn of a new renaissance in tabletop RPG. As a matter of fact, I think it will be.
Yeah, and I don't think 5e is going anywhere necessarily in terms of like how, I'm not going to shame anybody for
still
playing.
Have a player base.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
going to shame anybody
yeah.
for playing 5th edition. Like
No.
I played D&D
Yeah.
like yesterday. you know?
Exactly. Like I fucking love D&D. That's not going to change. I just hate WotC. Fuck wizards.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Not the class, the company.
Yeah, and not the employees
No,
specifically.
but also the
but
class.
Yeah.
The executive decisions.
So
Yes.
a lot
Yeah,
of our
executive
audience
decision.
has been asking us, what does this mean for the Dungeoncast? And me and Brian have had long conversations. I think the number one thing is it means that the Dungeoncast is no longer going to be a podcast about everything D&D. It's now going to be a podcast about everything tabletop RPG. Are we going to stop covering D&D entirely? As of right now, we agreed that the answer to that is no, we're not going to stop entirely, but what we are going to do is we are going to focus more on the deep lore, the lore that goes all the way back 50 years before WotC or Hasbro ever had their hands on it. And we're going to include lore that, let's say we're talking about a subject that has lore in multiple games. Well, guess what? Those games have a place now on this show, and we're going to cover what the lore is in those games as well. We're also probably not going to promote any new books or any new content coming out. We're probably going to stay away from a lot of the mechanics. We are not interested in giving WotC more money.
Yeah, promoting their stuff. Like they crossed the line with me that like I'm just not down anymore. Like for that specific stuff. Like we did our Dragonlance cover and it's like got a bad taste in my mouth now.
Yeah.
It's like Dragonlance is really cool and
Yeah.
I like the lore and stuff, but like we did it because there was hype around a book release.
Yeah, and we did a lot of promoting for that book by covering the topic. That's not going to happen anymore. Another thing too is not every episode is going to be D&D related. Period. End of story. We're going to learn how to play Pathfinder, 2nd edition first.
Yeah, we're going to cover Powered by the Apocalypse
yeah,
stuff. I've talked about it on the show before. I really love Powered by the Apocalypse and the possibilities with that system. It's a great game. It's like a great little mechanical thing. You can just slap a bunch of stuff together on it. Like it's really a lot of fun every time I played it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what it means for the Dungeoncast. As for a lot of our live play stuff, me and Brian talked, and we're probably for the time being, we're gonna switch systems. We're not gonna play 5e. We're probably gonna try some other things out.
Yeah, but check out FBATS though, because that's a 5e game that we recorded from starting in like 2017. That's airing right now.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, I did it already, and I'm really proud of it. Sorry that it's 5e, I guess.
Fucking podcast, dude.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's a good show.
Yeah, it's a show. Like part of what I do on this podcast is like I like making shows.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of this for me.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm making a show. Like it happens to be a D&D show. Well, now it's a ttrpg show. I just like making shows. It's fun. Yeah. And D&D was a vessel for that. It doesn't have to be. Like we were talking about this laser focus that D&D gives you for like reaching people in the community. Well, that's kind of spread out now, like in my opinion.
Yeah.
And maybe this is where we should have been before, but like this is my introduction to the gaming space is Dungeons and Dragons 5e, which I think is a great place to get people on board with role-playing games, but I don't know anymore what that looks like.
Yeah. What about you guys? What does this change for you guys moving forward, if anything?
I think, in the short term, it means we're going to be diversifying our content offerings quite a bit. One of the first things that I did today was run out to my friendly local game store and buy the core books for Pathfinder. I did that this morning. And
I have plans to do the same.
Yeah, same here.
Speaking of, that's something else that I want to just toss in a little thing here. Make sure you guys are supporting your friendly local game stores because a lot of them might get hit by sales of books that are no longer going to be going out if you aren't, a lot of them buy their stuff in advance. It's not like, they
didn't know all this was about to happen.
Right. So, if you are normally a patron of a friendly local game store and you're no longer buying D&D materials from Wizards of the Coast, consider popping in there and maybe checking out some other books that they have, some other games that they have. I just wanted to make that little note because I care a lot about my friendly local game store. So but for us it means diversification. There are a lot of things that I've been wanting to write for a long time, and sometimes the daily, weekly churn of what we produce has meant that I have lost some motivation to do these other projects. But I will tell you, there's a fire under my ass right now, and I am like so ready to write so much. So one thing that I'm starting to work on is a Morkborg hack that I'm excited about. And the other thing is diversifying our offerings of magic items, creatures, so on and so forth. I'm going to finish learning. I have knowledge. I have approximate knowledge of Pathfinder,
Yeah,
but I'm
same here.
going to finish learning Pathfinder
Mm-hmm.
and start offering our content on both pathways of 5e and Pathfinder so that we can have some diversification there if Wizards becomes even more idiotic in the future.
Yeah.
It's a pathway, new path to find. But that's pretty much what it means for us. It's just diversification, learning, and maybe writing some stuff that I had backburnered because I allowed myself to get a little too comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that applies to us too.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something that echoes throughout the community. As you know, we've said it. Time to try new games. Diversify your table. And as content creators, I think this OGL specifically hurts them. Like it's less about like my table that I play outside of content creation, right? Like we can do whatever we want, and we don't have to give Wizards our money if we don't want to. We can play Pathfinder if we feel like it that day. We could play The Quiet Year is a great game I love to play. We could play that, like there's lots of cool tabletops. We could fucking play Catan, like
Yeah.
we can do whatever we want. But here in the creator space, it means a lot to, it's kind of a statement piece to keep doing 5e stuff. It's not that I just don't feel good about it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's been our audience, right? The 5e
Yeah,
folks have been
it
the
has been.
core of Abyssal Brew's support. And I will tell you, to the community's credit, we have seen an amazing amount of people just, saying like, are you guys okay? Are you going to be okay? Where are you going? Are you okay? What can we do to help? And I keep telling them the same thing, which is just make sure that you're still supporting your third parties. That's helpful, obviously. But outside of that, just like patience for us while we're doing all the big scary stuff of learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true.
But
Yeah,
it's
tough to learn
exciting.
new things.
It is. But there's so much good stuff out there, and so much of it is created and sought over by companies that care far more about gaming than the executives at Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
And I think something to keep in mind, we use the word company a lot, and they are companies, but at the same time, like a lot of these third-party publishers or these smaller games that aren't the Wizards of the Coast, aren't Paizo, the company is like 2-3 people.
Right.
So
right.
really you're supporting somebody's livelihood directly by supporting these people. It's like some of the biggest creators in our space, it's like a 1 to 2 person company, and it's a passion project. It's something that they love the game. They want to provide it to the community. So getting that response of even like 0.1% of what Wizards is making on their game could make a world of difference to people, change their lives. So
100%.
It makes a big difference to support your.
That was actually just to cover like a real small point from the royalty discussion earlier. Sure, they kind of wiggled around on that a little bit, but that was one of the things that was kind of bothersome to me when they said, oh, this only impacts like 20 people. That's far from the truth, because anybody that's making 750,000 or more on a project, those projects are typically large, and they involve a whole system of freelancers that are in our community. These people are illustrators, they're writers, they're layout people, they are marketing people, and they only work on freelance contracts. They're not these companies that make these larger projects. They're not able to support people 24/7 on their normal jobs because the margins just don't work in the TTRPG space for that. So there's this whole network of freelance folks that are part of those mid-tier creators, and you would see them lose work over this. So when they say, oh, it only impacts like 20 people, well, actually it's impacting a network of hundreds, if not thousands of freelancers. But sure, minimize away, bro.
Yes.
Right. Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
as a freelance designer, can confirm. It's absolutely true. It's I have, between Drakenstar, which I'm, part of the team of, as well as a couple of other projects that I've been working on. While we're still full steam ahead, we're still working on things. There was a lot of uncertainty for the past 2 weeks of like, how are we going to make this work? And with other projects, I've had just full on like delayed or put on pause. It's scary. Fortunately, I have a day job. I can afford to lose a contract. It's not going to hurt me the way it's going to hurt people who do this full time. Like for them, this is, everything. So it's
Yeah. That was one of my biggest things. Like that was what made me the most sad about seeing all this. It's like, dude, people, this is their career. Like, what are you doing? You're unhinging people's lives.
That was one of the. I said this to Fernando, which is my partner in Abyssal Brews, but one of the most hurtful things about the tonality that Wizards has used in their communication of both the V1.1 and this, D&D Beyond update, is they treat or seem to think of creators who are typically people who have, worked in businesses and so on. And they treat them as if we're kids with a summer job.
Right.
And we're not. This is part of our livelihoods. I'm not taking the money from Abyssal Brews and, buying a Benz with it. I'm taking the extra, couple bucks that I make from this, and I'm using that to, pay on my car payments or buy some freaking groceries because inflation is ridiculous right now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's what we're doing with this.
Yep.
We're not. None of us are out here like, oh yeah, man, we're just sipping on, champagne and like vibing in the VIP room. No, like
exactly. Like Will and I, we reinvested a lot of the money we made into the show this year, like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of personal money, and a lot of that comes from my profits from the show. And I reinvested that into the show because I love doing this, and it evokes emotions in people. And I see the response from our audience and how much they enjoy it and how many thank yous we get. And that puts a fire in me to like, yes, like I'm reaching people and they like what I'm doing. And I want to perpetuate that in a way that is like, this is the positivity of doing this. This is the driver for it. Like the money is awesome. It lets me get high-end equipment so I can make something even better. So I can give myself the space to have more time to make something even cooler. And Super Quest Saga was born of that. And like the work that we're doing in our studio space, it's starting to look like a real studio to me, man. Like this is awesome. It's my dream is coming true. And it's because we're able to do these things and it's because of the community. And that's what would really make, like other things I do with my money from the show, take my kid to like Disneyland for her birthday or something like that, because I live in SoCal and now I have a couple extra bucks and change and I can do something like that for her. My day job pays my bills, and like the money from the show allows me to do like stuff I should be able to do with my day job, but I can't, like the show opened up a lot of things for me and like helps me live a life that I think a lot of people take for granted and see as normal.
Yeah.
Like I'm able to do some of this stuff because of, like go on a road trip or something to go see, like go to a wedding of a friend, like upstate or something like that. Stuff I wouldn't have been able to do. It's because of this show I can do that, and the support that we get from the community. Yeah, I'm not out buying shit for myself, you guys. Like I want to do something creative with my life and like make this something that I do.
It is really fun. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say is and I'm full time with the show. This is how I feed myself and my kids. This is how I pay my rent. Like I got nothing else. I mean, I'll go back to work if I have to, but I quit my day job and took the pay cut because this is what I wanted to dedicate my life to, because this is what makes me happy.
There's a running joke in the TTRPG creator space that I have said, and many of my friends have as well, is that we're all trading the same $20.
That's funny.
Because, like, I mean, it's absolutely true, right? We get, Patreon money or something like that, and like one of my friends, Cassie Mothwin, is releasing like a wizarding school game coming up soon, Tangled Blessings, that is not produced by a turf. And it will be much better. But like, I want to support her stuff. I will use that money from, Bissell Brews to go and support other creators in the space. A lot of that, we trade that same $20 around.
Yeah,
it's reinvesting in ourselves and in other people in the community is such a huge part of what makes the creator community so unique and so special to so many of us. And that's all to say that without, both our fellow creators and especially, fans of shows like this who sign up for Patreon, who watch all over the shows and do positive reviews and all this stuff, like every single one of them matter.
Truly,
that's
really makes a difference
note as well. Support doesn't mean monetary. Like dropping a good review, saying you liked something that we made, just clicking a like button somewhere, like every bit of that stuff,
it matters
helps a ton. It does. But yeah, I don't know. Where does this leave us? I guess it leaves me a little less certain of the path that I'm going to follow in the creator space, but I will say in some ways that makes me happy because I was comfortable and now I'm not. And when I'm uncomfortable, I'm more creative.
Yeah. You get to make weird shit.
Yeah, now we're gonna start making so weird shit.
I'm entering my art house days.
To get weird.
You know what, Wizards? We're gonna get real weird with it.
Yeah, I've been holding back. You're about to see what dragons can really do.
There was somebody.
With that, I think we can get ready for our long rest. Is there any last comments anyone wants to make before we say goodbye?
Fuck you, Hasbro.
There we go. I like that one. That's
nice,
a good one.
Dude.
I just want to say thank you to the community. Like without all of everybody in the TTRPG community, the pushback would have never happened. Wizards would have never listened. And while they're still just going to take a few months to hope everything dies down and try to pull this shit again, I think the community's ready for it. So thank you for having our backs. It means everything.
I just want to say thanks to you guys for having me on and giving me an outlet for this. It's been a very hard week. I told Daniel I can remember the last time I openly cried, which was February 21st of 2021, early in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And that same day I started the Bissell Brews. I contacted Fernando, and then the second time was Thursday.
Yeah,
so
man,
like
that's a big deal.
it's
Absolutely.
been an emotional one. So thank you to everybody for the support. Thanks for giving me something to come on here and have an outlet with. And,
of course, man. Thank you both of you guys for coming on.
Yeah, and like we said, that you can see those notes in the below. Go and support your third parties. And thank you for your continued support of this show. I hope this isn't gonna we're ready for it. Like you've D&D 5e fans that are hardcore. We want you to stick around and go on this journey with us. But if you gotta go, you gotta go.
They're gonna talk about cool shit. Trust, you want to learn.
Yeah, I do think that we have a lot to offer. Still, this doesn't really change.
Yeah,
the spirit of the game, the heart of the show.
D&D lore is still gonna be here. It's just gonna share space with a lot of other stuff too, and it's all gonna be really fucking cool.
And if you really love 5e and you want to keep playing that's totally cool. Listen to this stuff and then take it and put it back in your game. Because there's a lot of great ideas out there that you can steal from.
Yep, totally. We've got 5 years of 5e content in the bank. Go listen to that stuff.
That too.
If that's what you really want to do. But yeah, that's that. I think we'll call it a game.
All right, let's call it a game. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Thank you.
The Dungeoncast.